Mo Better Blues is an American musical drama film directed by Spike Lee joint, with themes of music, love, passion, friendship, loyalty, relationship complications, inspiration, motivation, and progression. It tells the story of Bleak, who's the lead vocalist and trump player of the band Bleak Gilliam and his quintet in Harlem, New York, including members Left Hand on piano, Jones on drums, Hammer on bass, Shadow on the saxophone, and manager Giant, playing at the local jazz spot Beneath the Underdog, presented by Mo and Josh Flatbush. Bleak, while living the musician life, is seeing two ladies at the same time, school teacher Indigo and aspiring singer Clark. Bleak, caring more about his ambitions, is ultimately unsure on what he wants in his life when it comes to his future and love life relationships. With Bleak's various musical relationships and his close friendship to his manager Giant, he finds himself caught up on a path to success but also encountering some violence along the way also, though there is some growth and progression in life. The Mo Better is reflected as stated in when Bleak's then lover Clark says although he doesn't love her while they're together intimately, she'll settle for some of that Mo Better. That women, or with this instance, on all the various things outside of life, make the music more better for the people than what truly might be right. Some sort of vanity in a way, away from what is understood as life with God. Analysing the character of Bleak, we see a young man who grew up in a household where he was encouraged and disciplined to play the trumpet, not to hang out on the streets with the so-called wild kids of the neighborhood or his friends. This discipline and persistence carries on with him as he grows older, with his music ultimately being the center of his life, singing various styles from soul to the blues or even some rapping. With his friendship to his manager Giant, we see that their quest for money, assurance, redemption, and fame in the world takes them on a path that leads to not only Giant, but also Bleak being in the wrong situation at the wrong time, as he is assaulted and unable to play his trumpet again when he goes to the aid of Giant as he's caught up with some loan sharks getting some sort of revenge on him. Bleak's existence is spent between his love of being by himself, creating music, and also the often spontaneous love of his two relationships, Indigo and Clark. As he mentions, the music is the love of his life, and everything else is secondary. This includes his relationships, which eventually end up deteriorating to some point. Although his wrong decisions take a toll on him, after experiencing troubles and hardships, these encounters lead him onto a path of redemption and realizing that he wants to be with Indigo as they finally settle down, get married, and have a child together. Although he's admired his dad's words and ways over the years of keeping clear of women and not having unwanted babies, he found himself being able to mature to where he feels that he wants to be and living responsibly. Looking into the character of Clark, we see a young woman, an aspiring singer, who is also another lover of Bleak. She admires that he is a musician, and she also is looking to get her break in the world, to which Bleak is not interested in giving to her. She finds that she has things in common with band member Shadow, and they eventually grow together and go off to work in their own band together. She ultimately becomes tired of Bleak's ways, as Bleak is often forgetting or confusing her name with his other partner, or looking at her as if she isn't a serious musician and that her dreams are apparently hopeless. Though ultimately she lives out a dream at the end, while Bleak on the other hand, though he has fully recovered from his injuries and back on the music scene, is unable to play the trumpet on stage with them as he once could. This instance is giving the feeling that, as far as Bleak is concerned, he apparently can't play when he's not feeling good, or doesn't have all the things he wants in life, such as various lovers, which was supposedly making the music more better, as he often seemed to believe. Clark never seemed to believe that idea, that ultimately her loving made the music more better, as if she was some sort of good luck charm for his music. And at this point, Bleak is the one who apparently isn't good enough to be on stage, while Clark has now become the star. With the character of Left Hand, who, although is the lead pianist in the quintet, is always seen as being late and apparently inconsiderate to the other members of the band, such as the example of him bringing in his French girlfriend Jean into the rehearsal room when she's apparently not supposed to be there, as the rules say no girlfriends allowed in the dressing room. Left Hand feels as though the members of the band and also the manager Giant all don't respect his lady, and that it's because she's white. This feeling brings up a story from Giant, who reminisces on his time as a kid when his brother put white women posters on the wall in the bedroom, and that their mum, seeing these photos, meant that the brothers were getting in trouble for this, who Giant then was putting the blame on his brother. Left Hand doesn't necessarily see race as any issue, saying that his lady is also a sister, and that everyone else complaining about her are just jealous, because he doesn't feel that they are able to get an educated woman, a French woman in this instance, in seeing of their disapproving ways and apparently disgusting comments saying he shouldn't be spending all his money on her, like he's got a problem or something. When it comes to money, Left Hand doesn't necessarily see it as a big deal, although a lot of the other members are seemingly protective and trying to get more money. Left Hand is happy to lend money to Giant when no one else was prepared to, showing a somewhat more considerate side than the others, as the others were often saying no in a condemning way. Left Hand is also a character who seems to stay out of any trouble that seems to catch up with the other members of the band, such as Bleak and Shadow with their conflicts and fighting, or even with manager Giant when he's attacked outside the club. With the character of Shadow, we see a driven young man who was a part of the quintet, the tenor and soprano saxophone, and who dreams of having a band of his own. The reason seemingly for him wanting to have a band of his own is because he finds himself in conflict with Bleak's ways when it comes to how the band should play or be organised. Shadow often wants to go off into a creative tangent, so to speak, musically in a different direction, to which Bleak isn't often too happy about. In contrast to Bleak, Shadow believes that Clark is an exceptional singer and goes about trying to create a band with her in it. Though she's in a mood of feeling scorned, seeing her previous attempts with Bleak at being encouraged to progressing further in her musical career meant almost nothing to him, and an ultimate frustration and pessimism for her. Although Shadow too admits to having various lover relationships with women he's met, his overall feeling seems to be that of being a good musician and encouraging person, and not apparently hypocritical as he believes Bleak to be. This occurs in the example of when Shadow finds himself in a small argument with Bleak at the club while they're drinking together one night, and Bleak is saying that it's a shame their own people, or black or African American people, don't come to the club to see the show, unlike other communities, to which Shadow expresses that he feels that Bleak is full of it for saying that, seeing Bleak would apparently hardly ever give Shadow a break when he was trying to get involved with the music, and similarly with Clark also. With the character of the quintet manager Giant, we see a young man who is often finding himself in trouble and being looked at as a bad manager. This is seen as he's unable to get the quintet's pay raised, with venue managers Mo and Josh. They're just constantly rebuffing their advances, saying they don't ever negotiate, even though they themselves are often seen as trying to negotiate the deals as well. This instance is seemingly showing or giving a sense that the ways of management are some sort of a game to ultimately take advantage of the other person or group, and that there isn't much of a sense of trust or loyalty at all, but that money rules most matters. Manager Giant also is caught up in gambling ways and some sort of addiction, that he finds himself caught up in gambling so much that it ends up affecting his life, leading to violence being inflicted on him and turning his life upside down, including losing his position as the manager of the band, if not to find himself redeemed in the end, still being part of the scene with hope for the future. In Mo Better Blues, the quote at the end by groundbreaking jazz musician John Coltrane reads, "No matter what, it is with God. He is gracious and merciful. His way is through love, in which we all are. It is truly a love supreme." Given this belief in God and living in a godly path, with the grace, mercy, and way of the love with God, in this story we see the repercussions of actions by various individuals whose life revolve around music and fame, and therefore, although they apparently have some blessings in life, ultimately those who follow the way of God with grace, mercy, and love find that their world, dreams, and ideas come to a certain fruition. And those who don't find themselves on a path elsewhere, if only for a while, as they find and are inspired on a course back to the ways of God. I invite you to comment whether you agree or not, or if you have any takes on this film, or if you have any different takes on this film or its various elements. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.